I'm excited and pleased to introduce one of our, like I said earlier, old-time, very successful customers, McArdle Solutions. And joining us from McArdle today is none other than Ken Cratty, the Cross-Channel Operations Manager. As you can see from his bio bullets, 15 years experience in variable programming. He's an awesome expert guy at that. 30 years experience in the printing industry and an amateur nature photographer as well. And so, Ken, do you want to add anything to that bio or any other points before
That sounds good. It's just it's a beautiful day here in the nation's capital.
And I recently learned that you also love being out on the water, and you're getting ready to acquire a boat. So we should add that to the bio because
yes,
you know that's a good place to be when you're not working hard.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so let's jump into what we're going to be talking about today with Ken. He's going to introduce a complex nurturing program. And Ken, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the objectives were for this customer?
This customer wanted to engage with each of their students that's looking for certification. And what they really wanted to do is they wanted to understand how long it took from a student to get from take care of each process to become certified. They also wanted to help nurture that student all the way to certification and give us, report back to them that ability and how many actually go through the entire process, how far they go.
Excellent. And obviously, you know, they wanted to get that new customer acquisition because it's a competitive market out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is the program, and at first view it's a little daunting, but in reality it makes perfect sense when you go through it.
I'll go through it real quick. You can see that we just really quick from the beginning where we have the data silos. Some of the data was rented data that we put into the system. Some of the data was acquired to us by the client. So it's a mixture of data coming to us, which means that we did a mixture of messaging to them, really depending if it was a already existing warm lead or if it was a cold lead. We touched them with both email and print and drove them to the microsite. The microsite was a vast communication of information, resources that they could go to for their specific specialty. I believe there were 15 different specialties involved in this, so depending on what they selected as to what they're interested in, it depended on what the messaging said. Once they migrated through the site, we asked them a few questions to get us to help understand them even more and to put them in the correct track. We began a nurturing process. And that nurturing process was to, at the very beginning was to confirm that they're eligible. Then a few days later, we came back to them and said, it gave them some information, some sample test questions. And each email basically had a "Are you ready? Or are you not?" question to it, in which was a yes or no. If they said yes, they went on to the next step with a little time frame in between. If they said no, we did a 3-day wait and then went back to them to ask them again, "Are you ready?" again, and it just went on to that process 3 or 4 times until we bucketed them to come back to them later to see if they are lost, do they need help, and it gave that information back to the client so they can contact them as well. The process went through the whole system all the way down to where they're studying for the test, and we asked them if they're 25, 50, 75, and if they're ready to take the test. Are they ready to register for the test? And if they did answer that, that we gave them that information. Where do you go to register? How do you register? How long it takes? Questions to that nature, and all the way through to we find out from our client whether they've passed certification or not, and we sent them the congratulatory email as well. And
Beautiful.
That's
pretty. Real quick question on that program, Ken, because when you look at something like that, was that workflow driven by the customer's desire, some experience they had, or was that designed entirely by you based on, the customer's objectives? How did you arrive at that flow?
Well, we started out on it. We have a great team of writers and design people on our staff, and we spend a lot of time understanding their business. And then once we've done that, we've started the process, but then we presented it to the client. They came back to us and said, hey, what about this person? What happens if you stop hearing from this person? And when we massaged the layout even further to accommodate every aspect we could.
There was one last interesting point of that program is if the nurse, I should say the student got engaged with the process and then they fell off the face of the earth, you had a re-engagement process built in there as well, didn't you?
Yes, absolutely.
That was excellent. Okay, what about this slide?
This slide shows really a portion of the Mindfire Studio layout area, and it's very daunting to see the whole process, but we wanted to take a little chunk and give you an idea as to what it takes, what's going on here. As you can see, there's an inbound, that's the microsite, and all of the boxes below and the one to the right are triggers, and those triggers are, they answer the question and they went into a bucket, whether they're yes or no, and depending on what question they were at, and it knew to allow some time to go into the next stage and get the next letter. Someone that's studying for the test may take, this is a year-long process. Somebody that might studying for the test, that email trigger went out 2-3 weeks apart from each other, where if we're just asking did they register, we may have sent that every 3 or 4 days, just because of the length of time it took to do certain parts of the process.
All right. So now we move on to another program, and this was another dynamic program. Why don't you tell us a little about the strategy on this one?
Yes, the client requested that they do we create a self-assessment quiz, and they wanted to be able to have if anyone understands the expression Cosmo quiz, and it's basically how they answer each one of the questions to develop a score. And depending on their score, they saw different types of messaging. Now, we had 8 different markets for this campaign. It was HR, IT, I'm trying to think, marketing, and even in marketing, we broke that down into whether it was the B2B or B2C marketing. But, we did is we used Mindfire Studio's scoring ability, look at how they answer these questions, and we attached points to them. And based on how they answered this, the next slide will show you that the messaging, the next website page, had different messaging depending on how they answered that question.
And here we have quiz 1 versus quiz 2.
Correct.
Okay.
Here, what we're trying to show here is the way email messaging can go out and how it can affect the campaign. The really nice thing that we like about our Mindfire Studio is the ability that as we're migrating through the campaign with the client and we're seeing the instant results of the email communications, and if you have, say, 5 or 6 email communications going on and you start seeing that maybe the email communications are starting to drop off a little as they're going, we say, well, let's try something different with the email communication. Here we noticed one of our clients was very big into the Department of Defense, and because they're contractors, they have very high security, and we noticed a good sizable bounce back in our email. So what we did is we said, well, we're going to strip all the graphics out of the email, and we did, and that corrected that problem. So that was how we showed the difference between this, and then we realized, wow, even the open rates and the read rates were a lot higher with just text. So we've actually applied that to many of our other campaigns, including this campaign, where after 3 or 4 touches, we've gone back to just to do it a text email to see what kind of reply rate, and we increased the reply rate up as much as 10%.
Beautiful.
So the other thing that one last thing that I'd like to show here is the tools and research page, which typically we put in a lot of our campaigns to give the person the ability to research out what we're trying to market. On this particular client, they wanted their sales leads to be recorded immediately right into their CRM. What they wanted for sales leads is if people, as they downloaded content, that gave them an idea how much interaction they had with the site. So they wanted the sales leads to come through their CRM to their sales team based off of the content download. So what we were able to do is we were able to write a script at each download It was very simple with the HTML capabilities of MindFire to write that script so that when someone clicked on a link, a signal shot through their custom CRM to their to record that these people made these downloads once they've seen. I'm really not sure what kind of rule they set on their end. They knew when the sale was time for a salesperson to contact them over the phone.
Beautiful.
And this is the reporting, and the reporting shows us that these pages here, these are all the actual downloads. Because we built this custom link to the CRM, we had to make each link its own page, its own web page. And it also gave us the page views, told us the reality is a page view is a download.
Good results there.
Yep, absolutely. It's very good results. And as if you can see in the open rate where it says domestic email, well, you can see the email 0617 is at 11.77%. When we did the domestic email, that's the one that we made it a personal letter instead of having it heavily graphic. And you can see the open rate there jumped to almost 21%.
Nice.
So, you know, my closing thoughts here is productivity is easy to build programs. It's very flexible. It's not you have to take step A to get to step B. You can pretty much do whatever you'd like to do. It's very flexible. We had one campaign where we wanted the person to be able to refer up to 10 people at a time. It was a contest, basically, and gave them that ability, and we were able to work with MindFire with the scripting tool that they provided us and gave us the ability to build that 10-person refer a friend. The scoring has been great. We've used it in a number of our programs where we set up a score for the sales-ready leads, and we went through the campaign, and again, just because of the flexibility of MindFire, we were capable of adjusting that scoring as the campaign went on, just depending on how it was going on, what was going on at the time. So very important to engage with the client and to have discussions with them and see how they felt in the beginning of the campaign, midway through the campaign, and even 75% of the campaign, and for us to adjust accordingly. If they say, no, we'd like to see more people visiting the site, we'd like to see more people reading their emails, depending on really what it is that their goal to that campaign. And with that, obviously, we continually do A/B testing emails to make sure that we are reaching and getting the best results from the email.
Great. Hey, just one quick point. In our conversations, especially when we think in terms of auto-tracking of HTML links, again, under the heading of productivity gains, you use some other systems out there.
Yeah, I've used other programs, and with other programs, when you wanted to track an existing link in the email, and with the type of clients that we have tons of links that are in our campaign. You have to, other software, you have to actually establish the link for each link to track it. In MindFire Studio, all links are automatically tracked. Every action that a person takes on a microsite is tracked. So it's very, very convenient to, easy to use system. Time saving.
And we have one quick question that, while it's fresh in everyone's mind, Jeff asked, how did the information transfer into the CRM? So that's back to that earlier example.
They gave us a script. The client gave us a script to work on there. They actually use Salesforce, which, MindFire has a tool that works with Salesforce, but they had another system in front of their Salesforce, so they didn't want us communicating directly to their Salesforce. When a client clicked on the email, the script ran that sent a signal to their system, and it's kind of like, in the way it works is, with Salesforce is you create a campaign, you take these names out, each person has a unique identifier, so that when we sent signals back to them, it used that unique identifier to link up that person with their CSRM.